Hello, dear students. Today we are going to study our next fundamental rights, which is right against exploitation, Article 23 and 24, and right to freedom of religion, which is Article 25, 26, 27, and 28. 25 to 28. Okay. Now, the first right here, the first fundamental right against exploitation is Article 23. Article 23 prohibits traffic in human beings and forced labor. Traffic in human being and forced labor. Now, the term exploitation, how can you be exploited? Exploitation, how can you be misused, right? And can be treated with partiality, okay, or which is not beneficent for you, for your for the economic as well as physical as well as some other reasons, okay, when something is not good for you, okay, and someone force you to do the things which you don't like, okay, that is exploitation. So exploitation can be physical exploitation. It can when somebody harass some person physically, okay, and it can be economic exploitation, right? So how can constitution safeguard us against the exploitation? So you must have heard this word, forced labor. Earlier you must have seen, or you must have seen in movies, that earlier zamindars used to force their tenants or laborers to work on their field forcefully without paying them good wages or very meager wages or no wages at all, okay. So that type of labor is called forced labor or begar or forced labor. Begar means when someone is forcing you to do the job without paying any remuneration or wages. Okay, so that is called forced labor. So this forced labor is completely banned in India, right? As there was in India before independence. Okay, now it has been completely banned. And how it has been banned? It has been banned and also supported by so many other statutory laws also, like Bonded Labor System Abolition Act 1976 support. If somebody is found, okay, to forcing someone to work on his field, right, or to work anywhere, if a person or even the government or state, okay, is found forcing someone to do work without paying wages, or that is forced labor. If you are forcing me, okay, and I don't want to work for you, so that will be called forced labor. When you are forcing someone to do work against his will or wish, that is called forced. So these many laws, okay, the Minimum Wages Act of 1948, Contract Labor Act of 1970, and Equal Remuneration Act of 1976, these acts are there to protect the laborers from exploitation, or the working class people from exploitation. Now, who can exploit? A private person can exploit as well as state can exploit. Okay, so anyone, if a state is exploiting or a person is exploiting, okay, it will be against both the parties. Okay, and to whom these rights have been given? These rights have been given to both citizen also and non-citizens also. Clear? It was forced labor. Now, prohibition of traffic in human being. Now, what is the meaning of traffic in human beings? Traffic in human beings. You must have seen various movies on slavery. Okay, uh, like I don't remember the name right now. Django. Okay, Django movie you must have seen, or 7 years of slavery. Okay, these types of movie you must have seen. Clear? So what they have shown in that movie, the people were being sold look like commodities. Okay, right? They were being sold like commodity. Huh? So you must have felt very much pity and sorry for those people, those who were being who are portrayed there as being sold, okay, as slave. Clear? So that is inhuman practice, and that is very, you can say, uh, horrendous exploitation. So in order to stop that, we are having our fundamental right 23, which prohibits traffic in human beings. So how traffic in human beings? First, A, it prohibits selling of men and women like goods or commodities. We cannot sell or purchase men and women. Okay? Right? And then after that, B, it prohibits traffic in women and children for immoral purposes. Right? Immoral purposes. It also prohibits prostitution. It also prohibits slavery. Okay, so what it prohibits? It prohibits sale and purchase of human beings, sale and purchase of human beings, as well as traffic in women and children for immoral purposes, for their sexual exploitation or for their physical exploitation. Okay, and then after that, C is prostitution. Okay, you can it also prohibits prostitution. And then D is what? For slavery. Okay, so these are there to protect this right. We are having Immoral Traffic Prevention Act of 1956. If one person is found to violate this article, then he will uh, be doing an offense, okay, and will be penalized or punished by the established law. Okay, then next we will study prohibition of employment of children in factories. Article 24 is prohibition of employment of children in factories. So the children, those who are below 14 years of age, till 14 years of age, right? This Article 24 prohibits their employment at dangerous sites, including factories, mining, construction sites. So, at all these sites which were dangerous for children, right, their employment was prohibited. Employment of children for 14 years. So, what is exploitation? See, children are very much a child is very much prone to exploitation. So, we need to safeguard them. Okay, how we can take measures in order to protect them from exploitation? One person can force them to work, okay, and one person can take more work and give less wages to them. So these children, those who are below 14 years of age, right, their work is prohibited, right, their employment at dangerous sites, at factories, okay, mining, and these all things were prohibited, right. In starting, the innocent works or household works were allowed. Okay, there the employment of children at innocent works and household works were allowed, like, but later on it was completely banned, right, it was completely banned. And right now the age of employment has been also increased from 14 to 18, right, although in constitution 14 is there, right, but so many new children child employment regulation and prohibition act are made. Okay, according to those acts, those statutory laws, okay, the laws which were formed by the government, the employment age has been increased from 14 to 18 years. Now you must have seen the boards uh, outside the factories, okay, where it is written, okay, the employment of children below 18 years age is banned, okay, or is prohibited, or the entry of children is prohibited below 18 years of age. 18 साल से कम आयु के बच्चों का प्रवेश वर्जित है. You must have read that type of you can say board in front of some factories, okay, Moradabad or somewhere else. Clear? So that is because of that law. Now, uh, right now, what is the condition? Right now, the child labor is completely banned, but still, you can take work from your own child. Okay, if I am a parent, then I can make my children work at fields, okay, or whichever household business I am having. In that business my children can help me, but after the school hours, not before the school hours. Okay, so that is the thing. Now, the next article is Article 25, which is right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to 28. In this Article 25 gives us freedom of conscience, free profession, practice, and propagation of religion. So here these words are there. Freedom of conscience means we people, especially Indian people, are very religious one. Every action or our politics or everything is associated with the religion. We are religion centric people, religion oriented people. Okay, so religion always play a very crucial role in our lives. So we should also have certain rights related to religion. Also we should have freedom of religion. India is having so many religions are there. India is a secular country, but still it supports various religions like Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism. Okay, almost all religions. Okay, clear. So we people are living all together. Coexistence is there, coexistence, and so we should have certain freedoms related to religion also, right? Which kind of freedom we should have? If I believe in Allah, I should be allowed to believe. If I believe in Bhagwan, I should be allowed to believe in him. If I believe in Jesus, I should be allowed. Okay, so means I should be free, okay, to create my bond with God in whichever manner I want, whether I want to create a bond with Jesus, okay, and Christianity, okay, or in any manner, okay. So I'm free. That is called conscience. Then free profession, practice, and propagation of religion. So this is there, right? So first is freedom of conscience. What is freedom of conscience? The inner freedom of an individual to mold his relation with God or creatures in whatever way he desires. Okay, that is the inner freedom. Now, what is the free profession? Free profession means कि if you are having some belief, okay, so now you can openly declare those beliefs. You can practice your religion, okay, you can profess, you can declare it in front of everybody, okay, that is the free profession. And practice whatever belief, whichever belief you are having, you can practice its you can say doctrines. Okay, doctrines are the beliefs, right? And what you can practice its rituals, right? Rites, ceremonies, okay, anything, right? Religion is here. If Islam is there, so you can practice namaz, okay, you can keep roza. If Hinduism is there, then you can practice Rath Yatra, or you can practice the prayer in the temple, okay, and you can do havan, these all rites, okay. And propagation of religion, you can even transmit your religion, right? If you are follower of Islam or Hinduism, then you can transmit your religion to others also by telling the good things, by convincing them. Okay, if you present the best example of your religion, if the people like your religion, then it will be transmitted. Forceful conversion is prohibited. Forceful conversion is prohibited. So this was the freedom of religion. This was the freedom of religion. However, these rights are, Article 25 is subject to public order morality, public health, and other fundamental rights. And even the state can look through or control the secular affairs of the religion. I'm saying secular affairs. It may be the state can regulate or restrict any economic, financial, political, or other secular activity associated with this religious practice. Then after that, we are having Article 26. Article 26 is freedom to manage religious affairs. Freedom to manage religious affairs. According to Article 26, every religious denomination or section has freedom to manage religious affairs by establishing and maintaining institution for religious and charitable purposes. It has also freedom to manage on its own religious affairs. It also has freedom to acquire and administer movable as well as immovable property. Now, Article 25, which we have already studied, that was an individual right. Okay, that was an individual right. Means you as a person were having that right. Now, if you practice a religion, Christianity, and other people also practice other religion, right? This religion, Christianity. So you together form what? A religious denomination, right? So as an individual you are having right, but here as a group you will be having some rights also, right, which is Article 26. So here your group has been formed, this religious denomination has been formed, right? Any religious denomination as well as a group would be having these rights. First right, to establish and maintain institutions for religious as well as charitable purposes. So like suppose if you are Muslim, okay, these all are Muslims, right, or all these are Christians, okay, so what they will need? They will need one church also to practice their religion, right? So they can establish their institution, right? They can maintain, establish their institution for religious as well as charitable purposes. They can also establish monasteries. They can also establish monasteries, right, for charitable purposes, for other religious purposes. Clear? So means if you are having a religion, you need to follow that. You should be having certain freedoms to follow your religion, right? And religion is always group based, denomination based, right? So here, if these people, this religious denomination is practicing Christianity, so they should be allowed to uh, maintain and establish and maintain their institutions. So that is, they can maintain this church also, this also, and they can even maintain and church other institutions also, right? But that should be for religious as well as charitable purposes. Then these religious denominations and sections can manage their own religious affairs, and they can even acquire, possess, and administer movable as well as immovable property. Movable property means the property like in cash, amount is there, right? Fund is there, and immovable property like land. Okay, also they are having these rights. So here you are having freedom of religion as a person, as an individual, and here you are having freedom of religion as a group. Clear? Okay, so next is Article 27. Article 27 is that no person shall be forced to pay taxes for promotion of his religion. No person shall be forced to pay taxes for the promotion of his religion, right? So Article 27 is freedom from taxation for promotion of religion. Promotion of religion means Like suppose if you are collecting taxes from one religion or people, right, of other religion also, right, and then what you will do, you will spend that money on that particular religion or its promotion. Okay, so it means you may favor one particular religion and you can overlook the other religions. Okay, but India is a secular country, so India cannot do that. Okay, in other words, you will not force people to pay taxes for practicing or for promotion of religion. Okay, you will not pay, means the state shall not force the people to pay taxes. Now here, but they can charge some fees for the maintenance of that temple, that religious site, or a pilgrimage site. Okay, like suppose if you go to Kedarnath, or you go to there on pilgrim Anantnag, right, or to Ajmer Sharif. Okay, so there, like suppose the people those who want to go to Anantnag, they are charged some amount of money, right? So why they are charged when it is free to promote the religion, right? Why? Because in return to that amount or that charge, they will be provided some transport facilities, okay, accommodation facilities, as well as other facilities. So that will be called fees, but not the tax. Okay, so according to Article 27, no person shall be forced to pay taxes for the promotion of religion, but the state can collect fees, okay, for the maintenance, as well as you can say for providing certain facilities to the people going on pilgrims, okay, or going to that particular site. Then next is Article 28. Freedom from attending religious instruction or religious worship in certain educational institutions. So, under Article 28, no religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institution wholly maintained by state fund. I am saying that no religious instruction shall be provided by institution wholly maintained by state. So this Article 28 gives us certain freedom of our religion in case when we are studying in some institutions. So in which type of institutions we may be studying? We may be studying in four types of institution. One institution which is wholly maintained by state fund, means the entire money is given by government. Then second is that the institutions which are administered by government, okay, but was established by endowments, under any endowment or trust requiring to impart religious instructions. Third is institutions recognized by state. Fourth is institutions receiving aid from state. So these four type of institutions are there. Okay. So suppose if you are studying in this institution, right? Institution wholly maintained by state fund. Okay. So in this, like government schools, government colleges, okay, complete. So in those government schools and government colleges, no religious instruction or worship will be given, okay, will be imparted. In first one, no religious instruction shall be given, no religious instruction shall be given. And second one, religious instruction will be given. Why? Because it was established under any endowment or trust requiring to impart religious instructions, like madrasa is there, like Vedic Pathshalas and all these are there. Okay, so these are created under trust, and its motive is to impart religious education, right? Religious instruction. So those institutions which are administered by state but were created under any endowment or trust, okay, requiring to impart religious instructions. Then third and fourth type, this one type, okay, this is institution recognized by state, like all schools, okay, English medium schools which are recognized by state, and institutions receiving aid from state, the institutions which are receiving money, grant, aid from uh, state government, okay. So in these types, attending religious instructions is voluntary. Here, if you want to attend religious instruction, then you can. If you don't want to attend, then nobody will force you. If you are studying in a school where some religious worship is done during morning assembly, then it is your right whether to attend that morning assembly or not attend that morning assembly. It is up to you. You can practice your right to silence also, okay. Nobody will force you to worship there. And if some religious instructions are being imparted in these institutions, then it is up to you whether you want to take it or not want to take it. Clear? Then in case of minors, okay, if the minors are there, minors, in their case, the uh, it is up to the guardians, okay, whether they want their ward or their uh, offsprings to take that religious instruction or not. I hope you would have understood all these things. Thank you so much.